Perfect. I'm going to record this session if you don't mind, in case you want to have it as a follow-on link. We're happy to do that. So again, Insights Learning and Development is the global company headquartered in Dundee, Scotland. My name is Scott Schwefel. My company is called Discover Yourself. We've got just a small but mighty team of 8. And in that capacity, we are actually the largest distributor of insights discovery in the world. So we do a lot of work with this model and with this program. We've delivered over 250 live webinars. So this isn't something new to us, although the tools have changed over the years. The addition of video has been great, actually. So if any of you want to jump on video while we engage with each other, that's great. I try and leave your microphones unmuted from my end so that you can jump in and share and ask questions. But we'll also leverage the chat as a way to pull together some items and questions to gain consensus around some of the things that we're doing. Let me just pull the chat up now that I said that. Someone's on it already. Make sure I'm watching it. Gotcha. All right. Looks like we're chasing down some profiles. That's fantastic. So I bring that up for clarity, or the distinction between Insights, the global company, and then our company, Discover Yourself. It suggests, and in fact, we're not employees of Insights. We use the Insights discovery model because of the powerful results that we see it deliver for teams and for models and companies. In fact, some organizations, every one of these organizations I've worked with in the last 20 years, some have put 40, 50, 60,000 people through discovery. Some organizations like LinkedIn and Indeed have committed to 100% of their employees going through the program. So let's dive into the model. And what I want to do is refresh you with what the basis of the model is, right? The basis of our model is you, your sense of self, your notion of who you are. An easy way to capture that is I'm going to ask you to type it into the chat in one word. How would you describe yourself right now? In one word, how would you describe yourself in one word? Type it into the chat, please. Go ahead and do that. Curious, E127112. I'm curious about that handle. Proactive, determined, efficient, ready. Oh, Eddie's got no sound. Let's type a quick note here. Eddie, you're in. Terrific. Here's, well, the rest of the answers are flowing in. And by the way, just for to help you gauge where we're at, we've got about 22 participants on the call. Getting a little big to keep the mics wide open, but if it works, we'll try it. I love you to have the ability to respond when you can. So when you come up with a word, when you're thinking about who you are, Carl Jung called it conscious persona. It's who you are when you're thinking about who you are. And here's what's interesting about people. We think we are that person all the time. And Discovery teaches us, and this program teaches us, that we're really not. You're only the person you are when you're thinking about who you are, when you're actually thinking about who you are. And here's the thing, that's really rare. How often does someone tell you to think about yourself in a word and come up with it? Okay, because in that moment, you were consciously aware, you were self-aware, but then we forget. We get busy and we forget. So we show up like someone that we've never met. And that's where this stuff gets interesting. You're interacting with other people coming from a place of not knowing who you are or what type of interaction you're having with them. But if it moves to conflict, you argue the conflict as your conscious sound. Tiffany, maybe you can help work with Eddie. There seems to be something on his end because the rest of the folks can hear. As far as I can tell, you can all hear me okay, can't you? Yeah, perfect. So what I want you thinking about is the changes that we go through when we move from being unaware of our behavior to aware of our behavior. And here's what it feels like, okay? There's something you're all doing right now out of your less conscious brain, meaning you're doing it, but you're not thinking about it. And it's easy and it's natural and it's automatic and it's comfortable. Breathing is a good example. You're all breathing, and yet you didn't have any conscious control of your breathing. But now that I've got you thinking about it, you have conscious control of it. In fact, you might notice that the pattern of your breathing just changed. And by the way, your blinking is the exact same. Your blinking was easy and automatic and comfortable. And now that you're thinking about it, it just changed. It just changed. And the thing about being aware is that with conscious awareness, you can take control of any less conscious function. And here's the one I want you to focus on, your personality. If you think about who you are, you can choose to behave like anyone else. Not completely, not lose yourself, not dramatically change who you are, but just lean a little bit more into someone else's style because you're thinking about it. And that's the key. You've got to be thinking about it. If you've been in one of our workshops, you probably recognize this tool. Is that upside down? Yes, it is. You probably recognize this tool. We bring dry erase markers to all the training programs we deliver, and we encourage people to go back and write a message on their bathroom mirror. The message is something you want to consciously think about. And if your focus is on discovery, the goal would be to notice the uniqueness of other people. Because that's step one, right? There's first understanding where you're coming from in our model, but it doesn't do anything for you in communication if you don't notice other people. So take a look at this image. This is how you start your day. Typically on a work day, we all move to conscious persona. The metaphor here is we paint our tiger. We think about who we are and how we believe other people will experience us. Now, as soon as we head off to work, we actually tend to show up more like the kitten. We tend to show up in our less conscious self, and brain scientists confirm this 95% of the time. So the adjective that you plugged into the chat when we started, that's conscious awareness of you. Maybe that's 5% of the time. The other 95% of the time, you're showing up as someone you've never met. The power of the Insights Discovery Profile is it shows you both. It's going to show you what you claimed consciously, and also that less conscious image of you that all your coworkers, and in this new remote work environment, your remote coworkers and colleagues might also experience. By the way, if I forget to mention it at the end, maybe Tiffany, if you would remind us at the end to put in the sign-up link for the spouse partner happy hour. My wife, who's my business partner, and I are both discovery practitioners. We're hosting a happy hour with your drink of choice, giving away one free spouse or partner profile so that you can understand how to connect and adapt with your unexpected and somewhat unwilling colleague or remote coworker. I think that's a week from Wednesday, if I'm not mistaken, but I might be mistaken. Tiffany will give us the info and the sign up for that if you want. The sign up gives you a link for that spouse or partner, just one, to get a free profile. And then we're going to walk you through it as couples. So that's that'll be fun. I think the goal that Linda and I have is not to have a fight while we're delivering a couples communication seminar. So starting with the basis of you and who you are, then you have to move to this conscious awareness of other people. Thanks, Tiffany. The awareness of other people is facilitated, right, and almost literally made easy to do by adding in the language of color, and that's the power of discovery as well. So take a look at this list of words I'm putting up, and think about which ones describe you really well. Capture 3 of them, 3 or 4, but 3 at least. And it's words that describe you very well. When you've got your 3 words or 4 words, type them together in one line in the chat. And also, I've learned on Zoom, those of you that might have a unusual login that's not your name, you can just go up to the box on the right, the 3 dots, and in the drop down, you have the option to rename yourself. If you want to go ahead and put your first and last name up there instead of your unique login, you're welcome to do that. And again, as you think about words that describe you, you are coming at it from conscious persona. Meaning the words you're choosing likely represent the way you are when you're thinking about how you're showing up. If you've already picked the 3 words or 4 words, I want you to pick just one word that's not you. Grab the word that's least like you on this list and type that into the chat. Just one. Which one's not you? I didn't expect to see that so fast, Monica. Kiara, welcome. Least reflective. I don't know if I agree with that. A lot of times what's been happening, I've been running 1 or 2 webinars every day of the week for the last 4 weeks. You know, prior to that, we typically had 1 or 2 per month at the most. And we're averaging 6 or 8 or 10. So what I'm seeing are patterns. One of the patterns, when I say pick the one word that you are not, someone types patient, and it's the first one that comes up, which is funny because it's someone living out the fact that that's not who they are. But here's the thing, what I want you to do, and again, still in that conscious mindset, is I want you to translate the words you chose into the language of discovery, which is the language of color. Now you can see the words you selected, see what color energies they represent, the word you chose to represent you, or the words rather, and then also the one that's not you. And if you're seeing a pattern, if 2 or even 3 of the words you chose are a consistent color energy, look at the other words that are that same color and see if they resonate with you. Because an important concept of discovery is you don't become a color. You're not a red guy or a blue girl. Every one of us uses these color energies in certain proportions. My words might be influencing, active, and driving. And what I see quickly looking at them in color is yellow, yellow, red. And in fact, I lead with yellow followed by red energy. I'm not a yellow guy, but I like to demonstrate yellow energy. I like to use yellow energy and also red. Those are my 2 inclined color energies. A word that's not me is analytical. I don't even like to say it. It's just not the way that I'm wired. But that doesn't mean that I can't create a better interaction with someone who leads with blue energy or who in the moment is behaving in an analytical way. If I have awareness, I will slow down and I will focus on the facts. If I am unaware, I'm going to dump yellow, red all over that person and create a bad interaction. That's the core basis of the power of discovery. And working in a remote environment, which is an added stressor for most of us, it's even harder to remain consciously aware of who we're interacting with. That could be our home remote workers, and including spouse, partner, children, family, extended family, but it's also every other remote worker. And if we're on the phone, there's a better way we can talk with them. If we're on a video call, there's a better tone and pace that we can deliver for them. And if we're sending an email, our emails can be better. I think Insights Discovery has never been more important than it is now because of what we're all going through. So I believe most of you have a keen sense of the color energies: fiery red, competitive, demanding, determined. That's those of you that are all about getting stuff done. The opposite energy is earth green. It's those of you that are all about making sure everybody's okay and everybody's taken care of. It's a very supportive and very collaborative energy. Red and green are opposite energies, but some people lead with both. It's quite possible that you find yourself showing up with very high one or the other, which leads to the ability to slide back and forth between the 2 colors that you show. The other pair of opposites, of course, yellow and blue energy. Yellow energy, social, dynamic, demonstrative, woohoo! Here's the thing, if you lead with yellow energy, you smiled when I did that. If you lead with high blue energy, you found that noise irritating. Isn't it interesting? The subtle differences in how we see our world are a function of our color energies. Cool blue, cautious, precise, deliberate, all about the data, all about the facts, ideally taking emotion off the table as you do the work that you do. Now, I've already shared that I lead yellow-red, but I can lean into cool blue. And one of the easiest ways for me to take my emotion off the table is to take me off the table, meaning not on the phone, not on a video call, and not face-to-face, which means for me to cool blue, put it in writing, put it in writing, put it in writing. That's the goal. Tiffany, if you can, I'm sure you're keeping your eye on the chat, but it looks like there might be a sound issue. Kiara, can you hear me okay? I just see your videos up. All right, awesome, thanks. So that's good day. That's when we're showing up aware, even unaware, but delivering the best of our color energies, whatever they might be. A challenge is if we deliver too much of our color energy to our opposite type, it shows up on the bad day slide. Now, we could also be literally having a bad day and we'll show up on the bad day slide. But what we don't realize often, because we're not aware, is the gift of our leading color energy is not what somebody wants from us, in which case they'll see us on this slide. Meaning, if I lead with sunshine yellow and someone shows up with high cool blue, I see him stuffy, indecisive, suspicious, cold, and reserved. I see the negative side of their blue energy. Bad red energy, aggressive, controlling, driving, intolerant. Bad sunshine yellow, excitable, frantic, indiscreet, flamboyant, even hasty. And bad earth green, docile, bland, plotting, reliant, stubborn. It takes a lot to push somebody with earth green energy to a place where they show up in a negative way. But if they think they're not being treated fairly, or even worse, if someone else is not being treated fairly, earth green will step up in a very strong, reliant, and stubborn way to bring right or bring justice to what's happening there. So that's the good day and that's the bad day of the color energies. The power behind our model, as most of you know, if you have the blocks, we always encourage you to stack them according to the way you show the color energies. What that would mean for me, as I already mentioned, is I lead with yellow, very high yellow, and actually fairly high red as well. I said my lowest word was analytical. That drops blue down to the bottom. So this is me. If you were to stack your blocks just top to bottom, what you've done is represent yourself in a unique one of 24 styles, because there's 24 different ways with just 4 colored blocks I can represent myself. If you want to go deeper to a layer of 1 in 72 types, if this is my color energies and I have high yellow, but my other 3 color energies are lower, and by that I mean above or below 50%, I might show myself this way. This is somebody who's going to show a lot of yellow energy, not so much red, green, or blue. We call that focused, if you remember, 1 color energy above the midpoint in inclined usage. That's 24 types. I mentioned already I use yellow and red together quite often. That's 2 above, 2 below. That's another 24 types. And lastly, there's many of you on the call, you lead with 3 colors. You're going to be inclined to show your top 3 colors and not the bottom. We call that accommodating, and that's another 24 types. Now, you've gotten to the distinction, which is actually 1 of 72 unique types. Here's the cool thing about discovery. You don't have to know which of the 72 types I am to better interact with me. As a starting point, just know that I lead with yellow and bring a smile when you work with me. As you get better understanding people, you'll learn over time that I bring yellow and red energy. So I like you to come in and lead with a smile and some energy, but you know what? There's some drive to get some things done. If you move it all the way to understanding all 4 color energies, you'll know that I don't rely on the data and the facts as I make my decisions, and that I care, right? Not quite as much as I enjoy the moment and drive for results. There's so much richness in understanding all those things about a person, but the power of discovery is all you need to begin to use it is the basic understanding of someone's leading color energy. That's it, just the basic understanding of someone's leading color energy. So what sits underneath the color energies, why do they mean what they mean? In 1921, Carl Jung wrote Psychological Types. Actually, I was going to say, I used to carry it with me all the time, but now that I'm in the office, there you go. I haven't pulled this out in a few years. Right here. Psychological Types, Carl Jung, 1921. This is obviously a reprint. Looks like this has been passed on at least since 1978 by some folks. But chapter 10 of this book is where he highlighted this key structure. And in his words, it's how people gather information and make decisions based on their orientation towards the world. That orientation is introversion versus extroversion. He coined those terms and said, you're either all about what's happening around you or internal to you. And then wherever you're oriented on that continuum, you have to gather information. So you gather it through your 5 senses, right? See it, hear it, touch it, feel it. The blocks are great for that. I see this is yellow. I see this is red. I can feel that they're squishy. That's me pulling information in through my senses. But that's equally as valuable and equally used as people who rely on intuition. Intuition is you just know something and you don't know why you know it. Some people equate it to a gut feeling, but I want to be cautious with that language because, as you can see, we use feeling differently. A feeling may result from knowing something, but the definition of intuition is you know something. You might be walking down the street and for some reason, you know someone's around the corner. Or you might simply know of a potential or a possibility that could occur in the future. Sensing is all about here and now in the present moment, right? It is what it is. Intuition is really about you know things, you're aware of things that could happen or might happen or will happen. It's all about possibilities. Another way to gauge if you lead with sensing versus intuition is if you right now are aware of, let's say, the dashboard in your car. If you know what it looks like, if you know what the dials look like, if you could almost draw it out right now, you likely lead with high sensation. If you have no idea what the dashboard of your car even looks like, and in fact, you've run out of gas a couple times, you likely lead with intuition. You're not pulling information in from right there in front of you. You're all about the future and all about possibilities. Jung said, however you've gathered information, you got to make a decision. In everything you're doing, there's got to be a decision that you make. That decision is based on data, facts, and logic, meaning you're a thinker, or people, feelings, and relationships, meaning you're a feeler. So thinking versus feeling is the decision component of taking information gathered through sensing and intuition and making a decision. Jung's theory is we do this all day long. And in fact, this is how we pull information in about our world to make decisions. And the way it shows up is in our communication style. The way it shows up is being measured through our communications. So the power of discovery, and by the way, if you're familiar with MBTI, Myers-Briggs Type Indicator, they've got another category. They added judging and perceiving. Judging and perceiving as a category is not in Carl Jung's book. Carl Jung said sensing and intuition are perceiving functions. And he said thinking and feeling are judging functions. So he used it as a descriptor of his 4 functions. He did not set it up as something else that we do, meaning something else that should be measured one over the other. Catherine and Isabella Myers and Briggs added that in about 1940. And a lot of the world chose to accept that that was Jung's work. It's not Jung's work. And by the way, it made MBTI too complicated for most people to utilize. Andy and Andy Lothian in Scotland said, you know what? That's too complicated with all 4 letters. But by the way, this is probably also too complicated. Is it enough to just use introversion, extroversion, and thinking and feeling to understand other people? And then either lucky or brilliantly, they said, and let's attach it to color energies. And then they said, let's set it up in a geometry where there are opposite styles so it's easy to remember and easy to understand the dynamic of that unique communication. In doing that, they defined red and yellow energy as extroversion, blue and green energy as introversion. The top of the model, blue and red energy, are data-based, logic-based decision makers. The bottom of the model, green and yellow energy, are feeling-based decision makers. Here's what's interesting. If you're conscious enough to pay attention to what other people say, even me, you'll hear it. If I'm a feeler, I'm going to say, I feel, how do you feel? All the time. And if I'm a thinker, I'm going to say, I think, what do you think? Now, as I mentioned, because of the way I'm wired, higher yellow than red, I tend to go both ways. I tend to say, how do you feel? And at times, if I've shifted into red energy mode, I'll say, what do you think of this? Challenge yourself to pay attention to what do you say? Because if you start to catch yourself, you'll move from one or the other, and you'll start to shift to saying things like, how do you believe this webinar is going so far? And people will naturally respond, I think it's good. Or they'll say, I feel it could be better. Thinking versus feeling, one of the keys. Another way that you make that distinction is feelers show more emotion. Yellow energy, being extroverted feeler, shows the most emotion. Cool blue, being introverted thinker, shows the least emotion. Fiery red shows the most activity. And earth green is the calmest, most reflective, connected energy. It's all about understanding how to pay attention to other people to pick up on the energies that they show. But whatever works for you, whatever part of the model. So as an example, if you've got one of our job aids like this It's poorly named Job Aid 204. Right? Odd name, I get it. It's just a little number in the corner, but it's helping you place people into the model and then giving you guidance on how they want to be treated. There's a lot more detail about ways that people show up on the back as well. The other tool that's most commonly used that you ideally have in front of you still is this Discovery Reference Guide. This is a great one. The first page are the good day, bad day iterations of the colors. Then it walks through with a job aid to support every section that we talk about, and even takes you into the depth of all 8 types, how to connect and adapt. So great tools as well. Reach out to us if you don't have them. But what they do is they allow you to decide at what level you want to use Discovery. If all you remember is that when someone's on the go, you know that they lead with fiery red, and that means you should speed up. If that's all you ever do for the 4 colors, you're making brilliant use of Discovery. If you notice speed up for red, slow down for earth green, smile more for sunshine yellow, and get serious for cool blue. If you can do that one thing, you are leveraging the power of Discovery. But guess what? To do that one thing, you needed to have awareness of what Carl Jung called the otherness of the other. You had to pay attention to someone, identify the color they lead with, and choose to lean into that color. If you don't identify colors in other people, you have no chance to use this model. Unless you are talking to a group of 10 or 50 or 1,000, or sending a note out to you don't know how many people, you simply want to touch on all 4. If you don't know who you're emailing, you should email in a way that touches on all 4. That email might start with a bullet point, right? Quick summary, followed by a little energy and enthusiasm, followed by a little caring and connection to other people with attachments, with detail. If you're not thinking about presenting all 4 color energies, you know what you're presenting. You're presenting your top 1 or 2 or possibly 3 less conscious colors every single time. That means without awareness, all your emails are the same. All your voicemails are the same. That's got to stop. There's a different voicemail to leave for each of the 4 color energies, and there's a better email to write for each of the 4 color energies if we're paying attention. So if you rely on the shortcuts for the colors as a way to identify people, you know red energies do it now, yellows do it together, earth green is do it harmoniously, and cool blue is do it right. That shortcut might be enough to walk away and use the model. You might also just think about the naming of the colors: fiery red, sunshine yellow, earth green, and cool blue. Those descriptors also help you. You might also just think of the words we use in general to describe them off of the job aid as an example, and pick out some words that you learn to look for. And when you learn to pick up on those, you take the action that's required. But some of you are also going to rely on the Jungian attitudinal functions. Jung called introversion and extroversion his attitudes. And he called sensing, intuition, thinking, and feeling his functions. And he said that you couple them together, one attitude with each of the 4 functions, and then the other attitude with each of the 4 functions, which creates 8 attitudinal functions. Now, obviously, we've only got 4 blocks. You don't have to know all 8 to get to know who someone really is and how they make sense of the world. If you know the first one, it's the best place to start. If you know the top 2, you literally have as much as you probably need to interact with everybody that you meet. So those top 2, defined by the colors, are fiery red, extroverted thinking, sunshine yellow, extroverted feeling, earth green, introversion coupled with feeling, and cool blue, introverted thinking. That's the depth of the color energies based on the model that we rely on to build it. Now, ideally, you've got your profile. If you don't, reach out to Tiffany. We'll see if we can't chase it down for you. Also, by the way, you can invite others who don't have a profile into this webinar, because the sign up link lets them purchase the profile. We mail them the full set of tools, and this public webinar is every Wednesday at 10 a.m. It used to be every month for the last 5 years, and because of people being remote, we amped it up, and we've gotten no less than 20 on every one of these that we've done, some as many as 50. So if there's people that you work with that you'd like to have a profile, or even personal relationships where you wish they had one, Tiffany, if you remind me what that link is and want to throw it into the chat, Again, it's for people that want to sign up, that don't have a profile, that would like to buy one, and let us mail all of our tools and that printed profile to their homes. I'm drawing a blank on what that website is as we speak. So for those of you that do have the profile, these are the sections that come with it standard. In the photo, you see what we've also added for all of you. We do the foundations, which is those chapters on the left, and we also add the management chapter. The management chapter, I've just always felt, is very important for people to understand about themselves. And if you look close, you can see that the chapters there are managing John, motivating John, and creating the ideal environment. That is a really important page in your profile right now, because I want each of you, after you get off this call with me, to look at that page and ask yourself, which of these things are currently true in my remote work environment? So which are true now? Because that's good, right? Just check it off and say, yes, I'm so glad I still have that in my remote work environment. But also, that's going to leave you another list of what is not happening in your current work environment. And here's the assignment. Look at the things that are not currently part of your remote work environment and challenge yourself step by step. Can you make it real? Is there something you can do, knowing that it's not present right now, but that you want it to be, and that it's part of your ideal environment? Can you take steps? Can you take action? Can you ask others for support to make that happen? This is a very unusual time for all of us. As you can probably see, I'm in my office. Nothing special here. I'm in my office because my partner/wife throws me out of my home office because I've been doing so many webinars. She's exhausted from hearing them. Now, she did one yesterday and got to do it in my home office. I don't know if that's necessarily fair. We'll talk about that in our couples seminar. But it's a big change. It's a big change for all of us. I'm the only one in the office, by the way. So this is where we print and ship and pack profiles and send all over the world. But just for me, looking at that page and saying, can I make something true here? For some of you, it might mean, a chance to take a break and stretch. That's something you've got to implement to be your best self in that remote workplace. So it's something you want to take ownership of. As you know, we do in the live workshops, and all likelihood you've all done this already, but go through the profile. Again, this is your homework, and pull on that statement where you've identified something very, very important about you, right, from the overview, and email that back out to your coworkers. Just say, hey, I was looking through my discovery profile, reminded about this way that I like to show up. You probably already underlined statements and double check them against the opinion of other people who know you well to find out if they're true or not. But some of the things that you can still take action on, and by the way, I'm not asking you to do this in the chat right now because it's a public webinar. If you were an intact team, two things would change. We'd go 2 hours instead of 1 hour, and it would allow for the time to interact with each other. So we've already done a number of live, virtual, interactive team events like this. And because it's an intact team, I strongly encourage, but obviously can't demand, live video. So whether it's 6 or 16 or 26 people, everyone's on live video. There's moments to interact. There's moments to share. There's moments also to type into the chat your communications preferences. So while you're not going to do it with all of us today, your homework is to go back and look at your communications do and your communications do not, and email that back out to your coworkers. Say, hey, to all my colleagues in this remote work environment, I just want to remind you of what I pulled out of my discovery profile. And that's when communicating with me, do this. And when communicating with me, try not to do this. You might also ask all of your colleagues to send that same information to you. It's never been more important than it is right now working remotely. I know teams are struggling with staying engaged and feeling connected. And that's what discovery brings, a reminder about who we are and how we want to be connected with by everybody else. Kiara, what's the max number of people? I would say a good intact team can go as high as 20 or even 25, but I've done webinars with as many as 85 people. What changes is the type of interaction that we're able to have. What I tell people on the Train the Trainers that I do for delivering webinars is if you have 15 or less people, you can keep the mics open and invite people to simply comment. As a facilitator, you have to remember to say, For instance, Deb, what's your communications do and don't? Or Gabby, what's your do and your don't? You need to orchestrate who speaks. So, because if it's a free for all, everyone politely pauses for 3 seconds and then everybody talks and it's a mess. So you just simply point at and walk through the people that are on the call and let them speak to it. I think when you can bring our voices to this, it's much better. Above 15 people, the audio is difficult, and so you can still have great interactions. And there's actually an added benefit by using the chat. For an intact team of 50 people, I would say, I want you to type do into the chat and put your communications do. List what you want people to know about communicating with you. Also, starting with the words don't, list what you want them to not do with you. So everybody in the chat, type your do and your don't. Now, that's a great way to see them, but they fly by pretty quickly with 50 or 80 people. But what our team does is capture the chat, cleans it up, and sends it back out to every team member. That's actually a benefit we don't get in an interactive workshop. In an interactive in-person workshop, we send you around to write them down and collect them from each other. But it's great when everyone emails them in together, you capture it, clean it up, and send it back out to everyone else. So there is a benefit. Again, along those lines, this is what I'm describing. We might also have every member of that team type in their top value to the team, along with, as I said, their communications do and their communications do not. This is powerful stuff to share, especially now. We've actually partnered with a guy and have been delivering these virtual webinars along with, not all of them, but along with an engagement survey. One of the things we know companies are afraid to do right now is measure engagement. You know why? It's going to be low. Everybody in the world knows it's going to be low, but that's the exact reason you should measure it. You want to know where you're at. You want to know where your teams and your people are at. The idea of taking people through a virtual discovery program to then move to that 60 or 90-day assessment again on engagement shows how you move the needle. And that's what we're here to do, right? We're here to increase and build engagement with our teams. And if it's got to be remotely, it's got to be remotely. I think all of us, especially if we're trainers on this call, you've got to be really comfortable with this new medium. It's not going to go away. And just as you pick up a phone and talk with somebody without thinking about the phone, you better be able to interact with teams and colleagues in groups without thinking about what you're using, without thinking about managing and moving video or facilitating in the chat. It's got to become automatic. So keep that in mind as we look at the graphs. What I want to do, I'll just do a quick reminder on the graphs. You answered 25 questions. It totaled up your colors. And again, in this moment, you're painting your tiger. This is where we're talking about this conscious notion of who you believe you are, and it's the left-hand graph. So if you go to your last page in the profile to just be reminded of the meaning, the left-hand graph is who you are when you're thinking about showing up. It's your conscious persona. It's your tiger. It's your Facebook portrait photo. Hey, it's a selfie. When you're taking a selfie, you're consciously aware of how you look. You are looking at you with awareness and snapping that photo. That's the left-hand graph. Conversely, the right-hand graph is the kitten in the mirror. The right-hand graph is what you're like when you're unaware of your behavior. But here's the thing you've got to take hold of. The right-hand graph is you most of the time. In fact, the vast majority of time, you're operating as the right-hand graph without awareness. Easy to prove to you. After I brought up your breathing and your blinking, you never thought about it again. But now that I'm talking about them both, I can even see some of you. You're blinking in a weird way all of a sudden and you had to gasp for breath. I get it. The moment we think about it, it changes. Now, here's the thing, and this is really, again, the power of discovery. It's not simply that you learn to get better at moving to conscious persona. It's not just that you get better at showing up as your left-hand graph. It's that you get better at showing up more like other people. Why go to the same conscious persona every moment of every day? Why paint the same tiger every day? By the way, if you work with lots of tigers, that's brilliant. But if you work with lots of kittens, that's stupid. There's no reason to show up differently than other people are. Forget lions and kittens for a minute and move to color energies. I lead with yellow, red. That's great. Every time I think about who I am, I'm going to move to yellow, red. That's a mistake. The power of discovery is if I recognize you lead with earth green energy, I'm going to calm down. I'm going to slow down, and I'm going to make a personal connection. By the way, it's not always easy for me to do, but if I just make the effort, you'll absolutely pick up on the fact that I tried. And the power is not how far I moved into that earth green. The power is more so that I tried to move a little bit, just enough that you picked up on it. We say that's 5%. If I make a 5% move towards earth green energy and you lead with it, you will know. And because what's underneath it is I have an awareness of you. I've acknowledged, in Jungian terminology, your unique psychological type, and I'm trying to lean into it just a little bit. That's the power of discovery. So it's not about going to the same place every time. It's choosing to spike one color. And as I've said, it's not that difficult to do. Speed up for fiery red, slow down for earth green. Smile more for sunshine yellow, bring energy and enthusiasm, be engaged. Take emotion off the table for cool blue, focus on data and focus on facts. Be prepared, be on time. Put it in writing whenever you can. You start to see the things that you need to do are not that difficult. The fact that you're not doing them isn't because they're that difficult. It's simply because you forgot to pay attention. The middle graph is a great reminder of where we make those changes when we move to conscious persona. Whatever you currently have spiked in your middle preference flow is likely what you do all the time. You've got the opportunity in every interaction with other people to simply choose to spike only one color. And I think in my experience, and you might agree, might not, it's easier to push a color up than to lower a color energy. So I naturally lead with high yellow. If I believe you lead with high blue energy, for me, it's easier to try to show more blue energy than to try and show less yellow, if that makes sense. Because I like to think about moving towards you, not away from who I naturally am. It seems to be both more motivational for me when I do it, and also a little more obvious. So I would get serious and bring detail in spiking cool blue to create a better interaction with you. The other thing to be aware of is the pattern you've all fallen into is what is showing in your preference flow right now. And again, a pattern that can be changed, but the number underneath it represents how far you stretch yourselves when you move to consciousness. The higher the number, the harder you stretch. Now, that doesn't mean it's a bad number for anybody. What makes it a good or a bad number, and you can see on my graph, most people stretch about 35%. I've worked with hundreds of people at 66.7. If you're thrilled and excited Sunday afternoon, gearing up for work, your number's a good number. If you get energized in the morning, planning to go to work, it's a good number. But if it's a low number, like 10 or 15 or 20%, and you're feeling a fair level of stress Sunday afternoon, preparing for Monday morning, you want to step back and ask yourself why that is. Why are you jamming yourself into your role in a way that's not comfortable? Just like your ideal environment page helps you craft, to the best of your ability, the most ideal environment working remotely, what is it about your job that connects with your unique personality? Can you focus more on the things that give you energy, recognizing at times you'll have to do some things that take energy away, because that's something you can control. So we never say a number's good or bad. You can see most people come in around 35%. For me, in doing this work, I started my first profile 20 years ago at 65%. Running a tech business, stretching myself, very energized, but also some stress in that role. 3 years later, I became a distributor for Insights Discovery, and it dropped to 35. I was kind of right in the middle of the pack with everyone. Year after year, I take the profile, and year after year, the number has dropped. And part of what that means for me is I am feeling more comfortable bringing my natural self to the work that I do, which is how Carl Jung also defined that. He said, approaching zero might be approaching mastery in your role. And by his definition, it meant you believe you're just wired the right way for the work that you do. Doesn't mean there's anything wrong with stretching to 35 or 45 or 55. Again, it all comes down to how do you feel Sunday afternoon, 3, 4, 5 o'clock, when you suddenly remember that you're going to gear up for work the next day. And by the way, you are able to take control of that feeling and let it go. You know how to do that. And let me back up. That feeling is when you let go of conscious persona and allow yourselves to fall back to the comfortable right-hand graph. Most of you do it every day. You'll do it today. At 5:30, when you're done working, you'll go, done, finally. Let it go, relax, disengage from work. And the moment that you do that, you're letting go of what's happening in the preference flow and allowing your natural instinctive self to flow through. That's the right-hand graph. If you're wondering, do you really do that? Wait till Friday this week. And I want you to experience how you feel Friday at 5:30 when you shut it down. When you shut it down and relax and disengage from your role, you've slid back to the right-hand graph. And I know for every one of you, that's a good feeling. It's a good feeling because it releases the tension that you claim by spiking up your preference flow. Here's my question to all of you. Why do you wait till 5:30 every day to feel that good? And why do you save one time for one day of the week to feel your best, which for most people literally is Friday at 5:30, TGIF. Why wait? You could take a breath, relax, disengage every hour of every day. It just takes practice. By the way, if you hear a background voice, it's my watch. She keeps talking to me. But what it also, just did it again. What it also does is reminds me once an hour to stand up. I have found that to be incredibly valuable because what that means to me is disengage, relax, let go. And then move from that place to what is my best self in this moment? What energies will help me in an email that I'm writing, in a phone call that I'm making, or in a video webinar that I am delivering in. Every single hour, learned how to decompress, learn how to disengage, and learn how to relax. That benefit is a personal benefit that's really powerful, especially now in this environment. So I'm going to pause here. Your mics are open on my end. If you feel like you want to unmute yourself, there's about 23 of us on the call. But if you have a question about your graphs, I'm happy to answer that or address that. Or if you want, in doing that, turn on your video and show me your graphs. And I'm happy to speak to that for any of you, or type that message into the chat.
Hi, Scott.
Hey, hi, Maggie. How are you?
Good. How are you? I'm back for round 2. I loved the first one so much. So, wondering if we could get a template of the wheel as our teams change. We have outdated wheels.
Oh, absolutely.
Okay.
Tiffany, would you mind sending that? We've got a wheel that is the blank wheel, and then there's 4 colored dots, and all you do is copy if you want. I mean, you can put names in there too, but I love the experience of the dots. So you simply cut and paste the colored dots into the wheel position for people.
Perfect.
Let me pull my my own camera up so I can see what I'm showing you here. And again, right now I'm the only one in the office. Whoops, where did I go? There I am. This is on the wall in our office.
Oh, that's great.
Yep. Well, again, in this environment, I'm the only one looking at it. But of course, we also took a picture of it and sent it to everyone and said, print it full page and tape it up in your remote office. Because the reminder that everybody wants to be treated a certain way needs to be triggered through consciousness. And the easiest way to do that is through the triggers of tools, and color is brilliant. Our brain loves color. It loves to connect with it. It loves to pay attention to it. So that's something we strongly recommend. Oh, thanks, Tiffany, for doing that. Appreciate it. How are we doing on time? Okay.
Thanks, guys.
Any other questions? I'll just pause for a second here. And again, it could be on your own graphs as well.
Yeah, I have a question. How often would you recommend retaking the Discovery Insights test, and what do you see from change in those variations of taking it?
So there's 2 sides to that, Donald, maybe 3, I guess. So for me as a practitioner, I take it every year. I'm always intrigued by the pattern. And the main thing that I've seen is my wheel position's been a 26, 18 times? I've been a 46 once. And the difference between those 2 positions is simply I pushed my green energy above 50%. Now, in doing so, I was the one answering the questions, and I claimed a higher level of green energy than I ever had before. I think I was trying to find myself, and I think I was thinking it was time
Yeah.
to be a little more mature and pay attention to other people and be a little more amiable, patient, and caring. And I hate to say it, but I'm really not. So the next year it dropped back down. But then every year my preference flow has gone down. And actually I went through a transaction with Insights Global, selling them a portion of our business 7 years ago, and my preference flow spiked up again. Now, I could take that as stress and anxiety, starting with no revenue, really starting over, or thrill and excitement. And it was a bit of both. And then again, what it did is continue to drop back down because I really love this work and I feel very comfortable doing it. So that's why I do it every year. My advice to you would be, if you're a trainer of discovery, I'd say do it every year. If you are experiencing a dramatic role change or dramatic life change, I'd let the dust settle from that and I'd take it again, because that big change could show up as a big change for you as well. The other thing, if you're just curious about, let's say not much has changed in your world, maybe every 3 to 4 years, I think it'd be an awesome check-in. What's going to happen, given the idea, and all of you know this, I think, we produce 100 billion unique reports. It's not just how the graphs might change a little bit. It's the entire 25-page write-up that goes with it. So I'd say every 3 years, maybe. For me, I think that'd be powerful to learn about yourself.
Thanks. I appreciate that.
You got it. One last call for questions here. Hey, Chiara. Or are you just waving goodbye? Oh, I'm so sad. Are you in Italy?
Yes, I am. I was just writing. I need to get the stuff done. I'm driving with the red, but actually I need to run to the next meeting. Yes,
Can't wait.
Italy lockdown 3 months, but we will manage.
You will.
Thank
Hang
you.
in there. Thanks
Thank
for
you,
joining
Scott.
us.
Bye. Ciao, ciao.
Ciao. So in moving the bar graphs to the wheel, as you can see, quick reminder, there's 24 spokes, because that's, like I said, there's 24 ways you can stack your blocks. There's 3 rings. By the way, some of you have 2 dots, and some of you have what looks like it's just 1 dot, but it's 2 dots on top of each other. If this is what yours looks like, you don't change as much as the folks who look like this. And the majority of people have 2 dots. The dimly colored dot is your right-hand graph. The bright dot is your conscious graph, your game face, your tiger. So when we produce a team wheel for teams, we just post the bright dot because it's you thinking about who you are. The labels on the outside, the 8 types, are likely behaviors and likely competencies as well. These dots fall in coordinator. You know what this person probably does well? Coordinates, organizes, structures things, cleans things up. Observers take in the data and solve problems. At the top of the wheel, reformers like to assess a situation and take action. Assess, take action. Directors, and it's not a job title, directors like directing self and directing the action of others. Motivators, like my wife, Linda, love to motivate others to action. I am an inspirer. I love to get people inspired about who they are and what they're capable of. Helpers on the bottom of the wheel do a great job helping others. Enjoy it as well. And supporters are very much like helpers, but a supporter is even more comfortable being behind the scenes. Supporters will help people and never get or need recognition for it, where a helper is typically right there alongside of you. So you see the meaning that comes from the labels on the outside. You also see what's pretty obvious. Red and yellow together makes orange, blue and red together makes purple, which helps you remember that the original 4 colors are represented here and the blended colors are here as well. In general, the difference is the 4 original colors are introvert, extrovert, thinker, feeler. The blended colors represent a leading Jungian attitudinal function that is one of the perceiving functions. Motivators tend to lead with extroverted intuition. Coordinators tend to lead with introverted sensation. Reformers are a blend of both introverted sensation and introverted intuition and extroverted sensation, as is the helper, a blend of extroverted sensation and introverted intuition. So the 4 original colors, those people are easier to pick out. The 4 blended colors, those people are a little harder to pick out. Oh, thanks. Also notice Tiffany put the link in the chat. If you have an interest in the couples happy hour, and again, with that, we're giving you 1 free profile for a spouse or a partner to join us with your drink of choice. And it's an hour, just a quick hour to help walk them through it and help share the 2 of you communications preferences and how to figure each other out and not kill each other in these unusual times. So the outer, just a reminder, 24 spokes because there's 24 orders of colors. But if you're in the outermost ring, your bright dot, it represents that your top color is there by itself. It only happens 3% of the time. We call you focused on that color. If it's here, which is where mine falls, whoops, we call it classic. It's 2 above and it's 2 below the midpoint. That happens 54% of the time. If you're in the innermost ring, it's 43% of the time, and it's people that are comfortable, inclined to show 3 of the colors and not the 4th. You see how much value there is in understanding where people fall in the team wheel. The gray spokes means your top 2 colors are opposite. Why are they gray? Because you can comfortably go anywhere in those gray spokes, not just the one you're in, but the one opposite of you and the other ones as well. There's a lot of versatility that comes from people who lead with creative color energies. We always work with our teams to bring together the team wheel. If you're part of a team that has one, go chase it down. If you know you had one and need us to find it for you, reach out, because there's nothing more valuable than this on your wall, reminding you how everyone wants to be treated. Every call, every video, every email. I can see some of you nodding, right? Agreed. This is powerful to let people know. In a video call, set yourself up in a way that people can see your blocks. That's funny. I'm realizing now the ones we use for trade shows behind me are not quite in my color order. Of course, I'm not the only guy who sits here, but I am the guy that does all the webinars here. I think I'll change that. Imagine if people could see, I know you can make a custom background using Zoom. What about a custom background that's got your blocks right here every time you're on a video call interacting with someone? Here's the thing. I want you to be greedy. You're telling people, hey, this is me. This is how I'd like to be treated. Right there. Have fun. Get it done. That's the power of it. So we want you to use it. The last 2 things, as you walk away from this call, I want you to remember you're capable of doing this no matter what your wheel position, no matter what your graphs. Anyone can recognize type in other people by paying attention, noticing what they do and how they do it. Here's a slide I love the most because it shows you just how easy it is. If you can pick up on color energies in an elevator, you can pick them up anywhere. You can pick them up in how someone interacts with you in a video call. You can listen to someone's tone of voice on the phone. You can pay attention and make a decision and then choose to lean into that color energy, because that's the last 2 pieces of our model. Can you recognize the color energy and can you lean in? If you get an email with lots of detail, write back lots of detail. They lead with cool blue. They don't want a phone call. And if you get one that's filled with emoticons and exclamation points and energy and enthusiasm, they don't want an email back. They want a phone call. What they'd really prefer is a video call. Invite them to a video call. If an email is calm, caring, and kind, write back one that's calm, caring, and kind. By the way, if you lead with fiery red, this is great for fiery red. But if you're sending to someone else, this is wrong. If you're sending to earth green, this is a train wreck. Here's a simple thing to initiate. And again, maybe put a note right in front of you. If an email comes to you with a greeting, send a greeting back. If an email comes to you with no greeting and goes straight to content, do not send a greeting back. If they didn't send one to you, they don't want one back from you. And if they did, they'd appreciate one back. Greeting in, greeting out, no greeting in, no greeting out. Go back and listen to your voicemail. Make sure your voicemail isn't too centered on one of the color energies. Make sure it's just sort of generic across all 4, but start listening for other people's voicemail messages when you're lucky enough to get it. I love when I get voicemail because I listen to the tone and I listen to the pace and I think about and decide how I feel about what color energy I'm hearing, and it determines, do I leave a voicemail message with energy and enthusiasm because I hear yellow? Do I leave a voicemail that's right to the point? Do I hang up and type a lot of detail for cool blue, or do I make a personal connection and moderate my tone if I'm hearing earth green? It's all about what action you take based on what you hear. But in this new world of video call, get everybody on video when you can. Some energies like it more than others, but even with all of you now, those of you that have chosen to turn your video on, I have a better sense of how I'm coming across to you. It helps me be better for each one of you. And here's the thing, it's not going away. It's not going away at all. This will become so standard and so automatic. Our business mix has been 95% face-to-face, and 5% virtual delivery. I believe in the future, and that's 60, 90, 120 days, I believe it's going to move to 50-50. I've done so many of these webinars in the last 4 weeks. I mean, literally 40 or 50 of them. And I'm just seeing how it's becoming the way in which we're going to move forward. And by the way, why do we do all this? We do all this for one reason: to adapt our style to connect with other people. It's all about applying all the learning we've had for one simple reason, so that we can do the thing we're supposed to do with the people's color energy when we identify it. Speed up for red, slow down for green, have fun, then smile more for sunshine yellow, and get serious. Pull back on your emotion, bring detail for cool blue. This might be the most important slide I have to share with you. I would even invite you to take a screenshot of it and print it and post it where you sit in your remote office as the one reminder there's something that needs to be done with everyone that you interact with. In fact, I'm going to pause for 5 seconds. Take a screenshot if you want. I think it's really a big deal. That time I said I think my fiery red kicked in because I want you to use this model. And this is where the rubber meets the road, right here. Lastly, if you have our blocks, I strongly encourage you to have them in front of you where you can see them, but also maybe think about, could you put them somewhere that others see them in a video call? Could you pick them up and remind people, this is how I want to be interacted with? Go back and do your homework with the ideal environment. Capture your communications, do and don't, share it with other people. Invite everyone you know that's on your team that's got a discovery profile. Tell them they've got and by the way, this is an extremely unique opportunity to get a free profile for a spouse or partner. We don't know if we're going to get 50 or 500 people that want to take advantage of that. I absolutely would. Okay. I can certainly send those to you, Crystal. If you send a note at the end, I'll give you my contact information. Email me if you want a link to the recording of this, because we'll upload that as well to YouTube probably, and let you have this recording also. But again, the blocks are to remind you it's all about these 4 steps. Who are you? Who are they? Which is really your colors, their colors. What's the one color they lead with? Lean in. Lean in. Lean into that color. Spike that color. If you don't have a set of our blocks to put in your email signature, again, reach out. We've got a set of 24 in a Word document. You simply cut and paste it into your email. And everybody who gets an email from me and everyone on our team, you see our colors. You could take your entire team, take the org chart, and put everyone's top 2 colors into it. Again, circulate it back out so everybody can see it. Here's the poster, as like the one I showed you that had our faces on it. And if you're working with customers and clients, build it into your CRM. Here's our team, as I just showed you in the office. Crazy looking bunch, but I'm reminded the preferred communication style for each one of them. I call Leslie and Chris as observers a whole lot less than Kenzie or Tiffany or Linda, who are inspirers and motivators like me. It's all about paying attention to what type of communication does your teammates want from you and sharing with your teammates what you want. Lastly, we've had a lot of success, as I mentioned. Our company, Discover Yourself, is the largest distributor of insights discovery in the world. And actually, I don't mind sharing, we just made the Inc. 5000 Midwest fastest growing companies list. Of course, we've fallen off it fairly quickly in the last 30 days, but we worked hard to get there, so we're excited about that as well. My email, so you know, scott@discoveryourself.com. Reach out to me for anything. Links that Tiffany put into the chat, by the way. Cut and paste that, or make sure that you capture that before you let it go. Also, 2 videos that will support you. scottstedtalk.com, that's plural, scottstedtalk.com, reviews the model in 15 minutes, but doesn't go into the profile. Discovery Explained, that's discoveryexplained.ed.com. That's a 35-minute full overview of exactly what we've gone through here. Goes into the bar graphs, goes into the wheel, and talks about the whole system. We're officially done. Sorry I ran over by about 7 minutes. I'll let you go now. I'll also stay on here in case you have a question that you didn't want to ask with the group, but want to ask me as well. But for the rest of you, thanks for joining us. Again, please capture the offer for that spouse or partner profile, just 1 per household, please. And thanks for joining us. Thanks for all the help, Tiffany. I'll actually stop the recording here as well.